Well, as I'm sure all of you have heard by now, Ace Frehley, an icon, a legend, one quarter of Kiss, the spaceman, is no longer with us. But there's actually quite a bit of Kiss news that has happened this past week that got overlooked. So let's get into all of it.
Well, with this change of the weather, some people might have a little rock and roll pneumonia!
You wanted the best, you got the best from my home studio on Long Island, New York. Welcome to Ian Scotto Rocks. I am your host, Ian Scotto. Yeah, of course, we have all known by now that Ace Frehley had a terrible accident. He actually had two falls, for those who don't know, and the second of which resulted in a brain bleed and the unfortunate passing of the iconic Ace Frehley. And some of you may have been surprised that I didn't cover this when it happened. There are plenty of other channels who had this go up really just a couple of hours after it was reported on bigger sites like TMZ and that type of thing. I did know about this prior to really anything going up on YouTube, thanks to my friend Mark of the band Electrocutioner, a great personal friend, a fan of the channel, guy I go way back with. So if you haven't watched that 9 to 5 Matrix video that I did, I've currently been working a regular 9 to 5 job, which has really stifled me in doing this channel as often as I would like. And it's not to whine about it, because I'm very thankful that from when the channel started a year ago to basically July, I had a lot more free time to develop the channel. And that's just the turn of events that where things have gone. But basically, I was at my job. I got a text from Mark right around noon that Ace Frehley had died. And I was like, what? That's absolutely crazy. He said, yeah, I have an inside source. And I was like, I don't know if I believe this. If anyone would know on this, it's going to be Eddie Trunk, because of the personal relationship he's had with Ace Frehley for all these years. And he would really be the go-to guy that the family would contact to break the news, I think, to a national audience. So 3 o'clock rolls around. I turn on the radio, and Eddie is talking about, and he sounds happy, but he doesn't sound angry or anything. He's talking about Rush stuff that they got into head-to-head of 2 albums that they were continuing from the day before. And, I got out of work, just listened for a few minutes before I went back into the call center I'm at. And I was like, yeah, I don't think this is real news, man, because I think that's what Eddie would have opened his show with. A few hours go by, and he's like, yeah, I told you, man. And TMZ was originally reporting that he was on life support, but pretty shortly after that, it was confirmed that Ace had passed away. Now, Eddie has spoken about this at length, that basically he originally had a fall that led to the cancellation of tour dates, and he was in contact with people close to him and was like, hey, I'm fine. Just, this is a stumble. And that is not what led to this death. It was a second fall that he had that led to the brain bleed and the death of Ace Frehley. Now, I don't know what everyone else is saying on their channels. I didn't want to jump the gun and do a video right out of work and just with my brain mush. So I've had a little bit more time to think about this. And for me, I don't want to say this is such a tragic thing, because especially for a guy who lived the lifestyle that Ace did, he gave us so many years of phenomenal music and regularly touring, up until the very end. And part of the reason he was touring, he was open about this. He owed money to the IRS. He wasn't living large, as some of you may assume, or like Paul and Gene from Kiss. He was having some monetary issues. So that is part of why he was touring up until the very end, doing these meet and greets and things like that. He had financial issues. But I'm just so thankful for how he impacted all of our lives. And I don't look at it as this tragic thing. For example, the way I did when I reported on the death of Adam Ramey, who, took his own life younger than myself, a guy in his 30s. To me, that's tragic and that's sad. The way Ace went as well, it's not like he was in a hospital suffering for months on end or anything. He had this fall, and within a few days, we lost the guy. Man, the music of Kiss and the music of those early albums is just so timeless. And going back and listening to them, and I know I celebrate a lot of the 80s era Kiss on this channel, but when you listen to a song like Parasite, which Ace wrote, by the way, like it's just something you listen to at any time, and it's absolutely timeless. Like a lot of the stuff that I celebrate and I love from the 80s, of course, you listen to it, you listen to Crazy Nights, and you go, this is very 80s. I think Ace brought something to that band that you could never, again, replicate, and then into his solo career with these great albums like the original Frehley's Comet album, and then Trouble Walkin', and then even some of the great songs he did in the later stuff, like Anomaly and Space Invader. And yeah, I actually think it's cool that Ace did leave Kiss when he did in some ways, because we wouldn't have gotten all that different 80s material. It's not something Ace would have really been a part of, I think. And then you got all this great Ace solo material that we could look back and celebrate. So I don't want to say it's tragic when a guy in his 70s loses his wife, but he will be greatly missed, and especially for people like Eddie Trunk and like members of Kiss who were personal friends of this guy. It's a little different for me as a fan. I take it differently, and I'm also not like one of the older fans where Ace was a part of many people's lives, if you're a child of the 60s, since the time they were born, basically, up until now. And, you know, he unfortunately will not be a part of that Kennedy Center honors, which he was really looking forward to. If people don't know, he was a supporter of the current president, President Trump, and I don't get into politics on here, but for President Trump to make them a part of the Kennedy Center honors was like a big deal to him that he was looking very forward to. And it would also be the last time that those four guys got up on a stage since the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, where they did not get up and perform, but they were in the same place. So I don't even want to say up on stage, but the last time that those four iconic members of Kiss were photographed together. And that's another thing that it makes you wonder, man, why couldn't the four guys get up on stage one last time and perform? They had a great event to do it at for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and Paul and Gene chose not to, you know. And then the final Kiss show, they could have made something happen. And you realize like the fragility and how precious life is, because now that can never happen again. And you just think, why, especially when Ace went and performed at one of Gene's vault appearances, and Paul even performed on one of Ace's more recent solo albums. So why was it so hard to just get these guys on a stage one last time? It was only just under 2 years ago that Kiss played their final show, as of now, final show of the farewell tour. And yeah, it's a shame that we'll never get to see that again, but we will always be able to go back and celebrate the entire catalog of Kiss and of Ace Frehley. Now, we also celebrated two really crazy things this past week in Kisstory. The first of which that I could think of, and I'm not going chronologically here, but Three Sides of the Coin did a recent episode, their last episode about this, that 25 years ago this month, Kiss, the original four members, performed on stage as a group for the very last time. And I could do a deep dive on it because in many ways it was a disaster of a show. And you realize why these guys just couldn't get along, it seems like. And goes into why you never got to see them back on stage one last time. But I would highly recommend you check that out. Now, you also may remember I did a video a while back about a big Kiss event that was going to happen this month in Cadillac, Michigan. And that actually did happen to celebrate and commemorate 50 years. 50 years, guys. Half a century of when Kiss showed up at the high school of Cadillac, Michigan, and turned the town into a Kiss town. On top of the celebration that they had, the original photographer of that event, for the first time ever, has released footage of that on YouTube. He used the rights and had to get the rights, and cost him a lot, from the Kiss Alive album to sync up with the video he had, since it did not have audio. Keep in mind, we're talking about the 70s here, and that is available now on YouTube. And you can see some of that footage as I'm speaking. We'll put it in the video. I'll link to it. So that's really cool to see. I mean, could you imagine? This is before Kiss were the superstars they would become in the years following this. But Kiss showing up at your high school and performing in your gymnasium. So it's cool that that footage has finally seen the light of day. Then more tragically, before the news of Ace, we heard that Gene got into a really bad car wreck and that he was going, I believe, into oncoming traffic, multiple lanes, and he could have died. He fell asleep at the wheel, and it was reported that he was dehydrated. People were wondering, is he going to be okay? And luckily, he was. Not only was he, good, he actually officiated the wedding of legendary rock drummer Charlie Benante and the beautiful Carla Harvey, formerly of Butcher Babies, who have been a longtime couple, finally married. I've had the honor of interviewing them when I was a part of Appetite for Distortion separately. And so Gene officiated their wedding for a very rock and roll wedding. And I heard that a lot of discussion at that wedding was, is Ace okay? And then this happened. So, man, listen back to those albums and just enjoy the music that Ace gave us during his very long career of, once again, over a half century of music. And I'm sure there's stuff that even if you're a diehard Kiss fan that either you never heard or you just haven't listened to in a long time, because you got all those soul albums, all the Kiss stuff, and then appearances he made on other people's albums. Like, he was on the Cat #1 Peter Criss album, which I did a whole deep dive about that era. But yeah, guys, I would have loved to have reported on this when it happened. But I'm just in a position now where I'm not able to do as much with the channel. My hope, as I spoke about in that Matrix video, is that I can get back to making content full time and making Ian Scotto Rocks a priority, because I love doing these videos for you guys. I really do. This is where I'm supposed to be. And I'm very proud of the fan base we've culminated over the past year, and having recent videos like that Judas Priest, Alice Cooper one that has now amassed, I think, close to 67,000 views. And it's like, if I could regularly do those type of numbers, then we can make Ian Scotto Rocks my full-time thing. But we got to get there. So I need your support. Click like on the video if you appreciate what I did here with giving you some recent Kiss news. Click that hype video after you like the video. Share it out to anyone who's a member of the Kiss Army, because I am not one of these content creators just pumping out bullshit. I'm with you guys during this crazy time of Ace leaving us, and we'll see what the future holds for the members of Kiss. We'll see what the future holds for the Kiss cruise on land in Las Vegas. I'm sure that they will be celebrating the life of Ace Frehley. Now, also, I got to do some product placement. We've got the Ian Scotto Rocks coffee mug, which I'm drinking from, and I absolutely love. T-shirts, all of that link is in the description. And if you're feeling extra generous, you could send us a super thanks by clicking the thanks button below. So yeah, let me know what you guys are doing to celebrate and commemorate the life of Ace Frehley. Rest in peace to the spaceman. If you're new to the channel, I hope you subscribe and check out some of our other videos, which you can see right here.